Someone keeps sending me racist emails. I found out who he was and I got even. So my first and last names are both common and commonly used by racist F-words, mostly in the Deep South, to name their kids. And through a combination of genetics and upbringing, those kids tend to grow up to be racist F-words too. Because it's so common, there's always been another person with my same first and last name in any place that I've worked. Most of them are not racist F-words, but this isn't about those ones. This is about a different guy. A guy with some seriously effed up friends. I should mention that all people with my name are used to getting misdirected emails. It's inevitable when you have a common name. You basically just figure out who it was meant to go to, forward a copy to him, and CC the person who got the address wrong. Easy peasy. Hardly ever happens twice. Once in a blue moon, you get something inappropriate. Fine, I get it. People can sometimes be rude and private. When that happens, I add a little note to the CC letting the sender know that it's not okay to be a racist F-word, and that if he does it again, I'll go right to his employer, if it's from a work email. And I'll go to my employer, since the recipient is from my company. The result is pretty predictable. I get back a humbly worded apology and a promise never to let it happen again. So it's effective and maybe even a teachable moment. Nah, who am I kidding? They probably just triple-check the email address the next time. But you take what you can get, I guess. One time, though, my very politely worded warning was not well received. I got back one extremely vitriolic response from the sender, accusing me of being every derogatory name in the Klan handbook. I was invited to perform impossible bedroom feats upon myself, commit self-deletion several times in a row, and all manner of colorful stuff. He cheerfully told me all about his, actually quite impressive, home arsenal, most of which he'd gladly allow me to shove up my butt and pull the trigger. So yeah, the dude was apparently upset about being told what he could and couldn't write in a business email. I think I could have even let that slide, although I probably wouldn't have felt very good about myself afterwards. But then my same-named co-worker decided to add his 2 cents. They were a much milder 2 cents, but they weren't exactly cordial. Essentially, he told me to mind my own business and stop reading emails that weren't mine, and that it wasn't my job to be, and I quote, the email PC police. To tell the truth, I was a little stunned. He had never so much as let out a peep when I did the same thing for his other racist F-word friends. And plus, we'd all been through a company-wide mandatory diversity training class where there was this entire module about how not to be a racist F-word on the company email system. Maybe he thought the cartoon his racist F-word buddy sent was so well drawn that it should get a pass? I don't know. I was a little angry after that, though. Even if the racist F-word wasn't intelligent enough to know that vile crap like that is offensive all on its own, he should at the very least realize that it put our employer at risk. Be a jerk on your own if you want to, but at least consider its effect on your paycheck. And so that's how I ended up taking a short walk up to the HR office with a printout of the original email, the sender's double-down response, and my same-named co-worker's annoying defense of his racist F-word friend. Calls were made. By close of business that same day, I was, for the first time, the only one at my employer with my first and last name. That would have been the end of it, but it turned out that, being a huge government contracting company, we actually had a business relationship with the sender's employer. The sender wasn't involved in that business relationship, but our ethics committee decided it was enough that emails had been exchanged for it to be necessary to inform his employer. There was some company-on-company communication, and I had to participate in a conference call where I explained about there being 2 me's and the racist F-word thinking I was the other guy and the offensive email and responses, etc. But the end result of it all was that the sender got canned too, and the police where he lived were informed of the threatening language used, i.e. his mentioning to fill me full of lead. I don't know if they ever followed up on that, but I'd like to think that somewhere in a filing cabinet is a manila folder marked racist F-word with a printout of that exact email. One can hope anyway. In short, 1 racist email plus 1 politely worded warning plus 2 angry responses equals 2 racist F-words out on their butts. Well, I've got to say, I feel like both these guys had it coming, both for the racism and the ridiculous inability to see that this might not be a good idea in corporate and government workplaces. I mean, threatening attacks with a deadly weapon over your work email? Come on! But then again, the correlation between racist and impressively stupid is generally a reliable enough graph to go by. So in the long run, both workplaces likely got smarter employees into the bargain too. And all the other bigots almost certainly had to sit through another diversity and discrimination set of workshops as a result of the incident. So there you go, guys. If you're really incapable of living and growing and learning some gosh darn decency, at least let your fear of being forced to sit through those interminably long seminars keep you from spreading your hate around. Not that any human being in history has ever taken one of those things seriously. More's the pity for these guys, I suppose. Probably could have saved a few bigots their jobs. Am I the jerk for telling my wife my job has to come before hers? As a bit of background, me and my wife and our 2 kids, who are 3 and 5, live in a very high cost of living city. I made about 5 times as much as my wife, so we do pretty well. If my income were the same as my wife's, we would not be able to afford to live in our city. My job is pretty low stress, about 35 hours a week, with the only requirement that I be on call for 1 week out of each month. Normally, nothing ever happens, so I do my usual routine, with the understanding with my wife that if I'm needed, I'll drop whatever we're doing and work until the work issue is resolved. This only ever happens once every quarter and only lasts a few hours. My wife, on the other hand, has a much more stressful job. Her boss is incredibly demanding and often demands random and insane things, just as a power play with her subordinates. She usually works about 45 to 50 hours a week. As a result, I take care of most of the home stuff, drop off and pick up the kids from daycare, cook meals, and generally keep the house clean. The Am I the Jerk incident was as follows. It was an on-call week after work hours when my wife got a text from her boss about fulfilling an emergency request from a client. My wife complains to me that this request could really wait until tomorrow, but she'd rather get it done so she doesn't have to listen to her boss whine at her in the morning if it's not done. I had no problem with it, but I reminded her that I'm on call, so I might need to switch with her if something came up. She made a grunt of acknowledgement, but nothing beyond that. About 2 hours later, I get an all-hands call to immediately come into the office. Normally, I can resolve my issues remotely, but we had an issue that prevented us from calling in remotely. I rushed upstairs and told my wife I had to leave, only for her to turn around and say, "Sorry, but my issue came up first, you're going to have to tell your work you can't." I was taken aback and told her that no, this issue isn't something I can skip for anything short of I'm physically in the hospital and can't come in. She got increasingly angry and started ranting at me, but I told her that I don't have time for this and that I was leaving, and when I got back we could discuss it. She started crying, but I had no more time, so I left for the office. On the way, she called me to continue the argument, and in the heat of the moment I said, "Look, I respect that you put in a lot more time and energy into your work, but we can't afford our house or lifestyle without my job. So when push comes to shove, my job has to come first. Otherwise, we're going to be on the streets." She hung up on me after that. When I got home about 3 hours later, around 11 p.m., the kids were crashed out on a living room couch with several bowls of cereal spilled around them. I went upstairs and my wife was locked in the bedroom and refused to talk. In the morning, I found out from the kids that she spent the night crying in her room and didn't feed them dinner or tuck them in. So they made cereal and had a sleepover in the living room. Am I the jerk? Well, this is another one of those posts where I was just about ready to say you were the jerk purely off the title alone. But then you laid out the facts and admitted you might have been wrong, and after hearing the whole thing, I'm more inclined to side with you on the issue if everything you said was true. You made a compelling argument, and if you're the primary breadwinner, your stuff probably should come first if her stuff isn't vital and she's able to make that case to her nasty boss. I'm sure it sucks for her to feel like her contributions matter less, I don't debate that, but ultimately, I think you were in the right. There's some nuance so far, but what I have to say is not cool for her is not feeding her 3- and 5-year-old children. See, I can forgive getting angry, even in the long term, for having your contributions brushed over. But leaving a fricking 3-year-old to fend for themselves is pretty terrible as a parent, no matter how disgruntled you are. She's kind of the jerk on that basis alone, and the narrator sure as heck hopes that this was an isolated incident. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for walking out in the middle of my husband's birthday dinner? My husband and I have been together for 3 years and married for 5 months. Our relationship has been without any problems until the week before our wedding. My husband was very close friends with a woman, let's call her Ava, that he's known since they were sophomores in high school. I never had a problem with Ava. I thought it was very obvious that she and my husband were just friends. I mean, she had a long-term boyfriend and everything, so I felt no jealousy. I actually got along with Ava pretty well. We all hung out together regularly. But then my husband dropped a bombshell on me the week before we got married. I remember he sat me down and told me that Ava revealed to him that she has feelings for him and tried to convince him to not get married to me. She even broke up with her boyfriend of 6 years to prove that she was serious about my husband. My husband and I both agreed to cut her off, we uninvited her to our wedding, and neither one of us have been in contact with her since. It was my husband's 30th birthday yesterday, and we just wanted to have a dinner with family and friends, so that's what we did. So we were all in the restaurant eating when all of a sudden Ava walks in. She walks to our table and says she didn't mean to intrude and that she was just getting dinner by herself and then saw us. She then wishes my husband a happy birthday, and I expect her to leave, but then my husband asks if she wants to join us. I look at my husband like, what the frick are you doing? I'm visibly uncomfortable and irritated. I stand up and tell Ava that she can have my seat, and then I walk out and get an Uber home because I want absolutely nothing to do with her. When my husband comes home almost 2 hours later, he immediately starts an argument with me. He tells me I overreacted and acted immaturely. I ask him why did he ask Ava to eat with us because I thought we were on the same page. He replies that he was just being nice and he didn't think it would be a big deal because it's been a long time since he's seen her, so she probably doesn't have feelings for him anymore. And then he tells me that I ruined his birthday. I'm still upset about it. I don't think I'm in the wrong. I mean, this woman literally tried to steal my partner. Am I the jerk? I don't think you are the jerk. Look, I'm all for forgiveness, although I'll never judge you for not feeling comfortable with this woman around. But even if you are both human saints and are willing to extend mercy and trust to all the people like this in your lives, there was a conversation to be had about this first so that you can check in on each other and reach a decision as a couple about whether to extend the olive branch. Also, what the frick is with Ava just happening to be in the neighborhood? Did he know she might be coming, or was he just so shocked by her rocking up that he felt inclined to ask? I'm not sure whether he's just an idiot or something more shady was happening there. It's only been 5 months. There's no way that Ava couldn't know that this might be problematic in some way. Not cool, Ava. And husband? You're on thin ice. My wife left me, lied about me, and I got revenge. My wife decided to take a week-long break about a month and a half ago. She said it had nothing to do with me, that she just needed some time on her own. I let her go and encouraged her even. I only wanted what was best for her. The literal next day, she started posting on social media, saying a bunch of things like, I loved the wrong person, and you deserve someone that supports you, that kind of thing. Standing on the outside, it's easy to assume I did something wrong here. But honestly, I'm a romantic idiot. I gave 110% into making sure the love of my life had everything. Here's the revenge bit. She asked for a divorce and has been making baseless lies about me to everyone I know over the last month and a half. Well, 2 weeks ago she got laid off and has been collecting unemployment. I just finished filing a form to report her for fraud since she's working 2 jobs under the table that pay more than her previous job and collecting unemployment on top of it. I also made sure to get her to text me details about said jobs and screen capped them. Legally, I know I'm in the right, but it's still a crappy vindictive thing to do. But honestly, I feel so good for screwing her over, knowing she won't be able to afford the house that she kicked me out of anymore. I'm really going to miss Tobias, my cat. That fricker was so sweet. For those concerned about his well-being, I can't take him. There's a no-pet policy at my current residence. Yeah, well, you're a jerk vigilante to be sure, but we'll forgive you because it sounds like your wife isn't winning any Best Human Being prizes anytime soon either. Also, as a freelancer, I get the temptation to play fast and loose with your finances, taxes, and unemployment payments, but it's not worth it, and you 100% cannot get angry about it when you get caught out. Sometimes you have to downsize your lifestyle after you divorce. She gave a man who she was screwing over the keys to her own demise and suffered the consequences. I guess we don't have much expansion on whether he was actually a good partner or not, or how unfounded all of her social trashing of him was. But from what we have here, I'm going to say that she doesn't look great, and hopefully they both move on to bigger and better things, and learn to be better people. Am I the jerk for telling my date that he shouldn't call himself a Harvard alumnus? So I matched with a guy who had Harvard alum in his bio. There aren't too many of these in my small Midwestern city, so I suggested that we grab some coffee. The date started off wonderfully. We had many shared interests and spent a good 30 minutes talking about them. I started talking about my amazing undergraduate experience at Harvard and asked him what he majored in. He gave me a blank stare. After a moment, he said, I finished a web dev certificate from the extension program. After some Googling, I discovered that anyone can finish the web dev certificate by paying a $6,000 fee and taking 3 online courses. I then asked him, why are you calling yourself a Harvard alumnus? When people hear Bobby went to Harvard, they assume that Bobby has an actual degree from Harvard, not some certificate that holds no real weight. Anyway, my date got up and left, but not before he said, this is why most people can't stand people like you. I've gone over our conversation multiple times, yet I can't see where I said anything wrong. Okay, well, it's refreshing to have an everyone here is kind of a jerk moment, because then I don't have to feel bad for either of you. Personally, I'd never swipe based on that alone, as the people I've met from the Ivy League and the 2 top schools in the UK have mostly had massive sticks up their butt. Also, what's with her literally whipping out a device for a big long Google search mid-date? I'd be very off-put by that too. But his final comment makes me think that he was probably the biggest idiot. People like who? Those who look up facts or suggest you shouldn't lie? And yes, this job where I get to judge random people with no fear of retaliation is very fun. Thank you for asking. Am I the jerk for ruining my sister's vacation? I'm 22 years old, my sister is 26 and has 2 children, a 2-month-old and a 2-year-old. I always thought she shouldn't have gotten another kid because she can barely take care of the other one, and most of the time asks other people to take care of them because she can't do it alone. Our mum is one of the people who goes and helps a lot. Definitely more now that the baby's born. Now for the vacation part. I booked a vacation to the beach a year ago. It was quite expensive, but this is something I really wanted, so I saved up for it. I asked my mum if she wanted to go with me. She said yes, so I booked and paid for 2 people. A month before we left for the vacation, my mum said my sister was also coming with us because her boyfriend was away that same week on a bike vacation. There wasn't really a question in it, they just announced it. Afterwards, I went to our mum and said my concerns about how I was afraid I'd have no time for myself and I'd have to babysit all the time. Something you should know about me, I'm highly sensitive and I get overwhelmed very quickly by constant loud noises. And being an introvert, having people around mentally drained me to a point where I can't do anything anymore but just sleep. My mum and my sister both know this. We're now 4 days into the vacation and everything I feared came true. I have to constantly keep the 2-year-old busy while my mum and sister are on their phone or taking care of the baby. Even when I go somewhere else to be alone for a second, like lay on my bed or something, he follows and keeps asking to play. I love him, but it gets too much for me. The only way they leave me alone is when I'm sleeping, so I've been doing that a lot, which means that I haven't been able to do anything that I wanted. My sister told me today I'm ruining her vacation because I make a long face all the time. I don't know if that's an English expression, but in Dutch it means I'm not happy all the time. I was so annoyed, I told her, what do you mean ruining your vacation? I paid for it. This is my vacation. And then she began yelling and said that just because I paid for everything doesn't mean that I can sit here and ruin it for her. I said, you invited yourself, I didn't ask you to be here, and I said that they promised I wouldn't have to babysit. She began yelling louder and told me I haven't touched the baby while we were here. That's a lie, by the way. I've given him his bottle a few times and held him while he slept and cried plenty of times. I told her who's been keeping the 2-year-old busy. She got more angry and said, it should be normal for you to want to play with the 2-year-old as his aunt. Our mum was looking at me like I've kicked the children, because how could I complain about playing with my own nephew? They stormed out and yelled that there was something really wrong with me and I should think about what I said. I've been crying non-stop and have no clue what to do anymore. They don't talk to me, and I'm stuck here with them until Friday. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk from my perspective. Sounds like your sister swooped in and flipped the vacation on its head, and your mum probably sided with her because of course she wants more grandkid time, even if she won't admit that. And it was at the very least not very cool of her to just announce that the sister was coming instead of asking first. It sucks that this happened after you paid for it all, and I'm sorry that you had to go through it on what should have been a nice retreat for you. They literally promised you that you wouldn't have to babysit, and hey presto, look at what you ended up doing. It doesn't sound like it's been easy for your sister, but my gosh, surely she should see that this isn't your fault. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.